and to create representations of the community that they were not seeing in mainstream media.
We are the storytellers. We're the keepers of the culture.
Reinventing the real. It's obviously two-parter, like one kind of giving us information on the history of gay, lesbian, and bisexual and transgenders in the movie industry, and then kind of giving us the second half about what these people are doing about it and kind of how we've progressed not only as a film industry but also as a culture as well. Like growing up as a kid, I grew up in a small town and I learned different cultures from basically what I saw in movies and TV. Like Will and Grace, it's like, oh, there's gay people, and then basically that's how I learned growing up. I know it's crazy, but I think that's what they're basically saying in the movie as well, that we do get a lot of our education from the culture that we learned from the Hollywood movies that we watch or the television shows that we watch as well. And we've come a long way, obviously, in the last 30 years.
I thought it was great that there's an answer for everything, a solution to everything, that in a way of having to find the money to make a movie that's authentic, they found a way to fund it by going worldwide. I just thought it was brilliant. Yeah, and really well explained in the movie.
Yeah, so that's what we're doing now, because of the new age, the technology age, people are able to do their own things creatively instead of waiting for someone to give them money in a lot of ways. So it's kind of interesting, how it's also the theme of this movie is also how people are able to do things, get their work out there in a different light besides waiting for Hollywood to give them money.
I don't know if this is part of their purpose as well, but I just found a huge teaser on all the films. I'm gonna watch a bunch of them now that they show little bits of and filming and stuff.
I do want to watch Maltese Falcon over again. I totally missed that when I first watched that film. That guy, I was like, yeah, that does make sense, isn't he? Yeah, he is sucking on a penis, isn't he? But it totally went over my head the first time.
So I kind of had the feeling with the last film that it was like a film within a film within a film within a film, right? Like those lalkas that are Russian dolls, right? And then I guess the greater thing is that they're trying to gain some independence from Hollywood so that they can, as a community, the LGBT represent themselves in a way that they find queer positive, and that they're not ostracized. And while they're starting to be able to break out with things like Kickstarter, it's obviously not quite enough. So what we've seen tonight is also going to be a precursor to people knowing about the film that they're making, to let people know about what they're doing. And then even they showed little Kickstarter clips within this movie itself. So it kind of feels like it was advertising for the film and for the cause. And
something just a little tidbit that people might find interesting that I happen to know on the subject of the crowdfunding and the whole weird new globalized world that we have. I happen to know someone who's involved with the writer of that Kiss Me Kill Me. His previous project called Such Good People, he also crowdfunded it. And it just so happened that he managed to get, what's that actor from Queer as Folk, Randy Harrison, I think his name is? He happened to get him attached to it. And it turns out that he's got a huge fan base in Germany for some reason. And they got a big whack of money from Germany, and that was the deciding factor of how he got to make that film. And then possibly this one as a result. I just find that very interesting, the shifting landscape of the world. And would a Hollywood production ever have somehow taken that into account? No, probably not.
Yeah.
So it's interesting.
Yeah, just to jump on your last comment, I think for me that's what the film's about. Basically, they're showing in 2014 how they're showing a negative portrait of these people. So they want the mainstream to basically do what's right, but then if they can't do it, they have to do it themselves. So the analogy is back in the 70s where there was no black character in the movie. So basically, black filmmakers were forced to get out there and make movies themselves, and then eventually you got Spike Lee becoming a mainstream filmmaker, et cetera, et cetera. So these are this is the beginning seed of what will become. Obviously there's that TV show Transgender that's on television that's huge right now. Obviously Brokeback Mountain, Will and Grace. So obviously there's progression, but there's still a long way to go, as the one filmmaker said. And I think they don't want to do this, but they have to do this because they need to do this kind of thing.
I I think they also made it very clear that it's a commercial concern. So as soon as these movies bring in a lot of money, then somebody will mind to give them the money.
Yeah. Like, just to use an analogy, like Spike Lee made Do the Right Thing in 1989. As soon as he made that movie, there's a huge, gigantic leap of African-American characters, African-American filmmakers in movies, and it's sort of like that, jumping on that analogy, like, you need to get these films out there, and then all of a sudden, Hollywood will pay attention. Because Hollywood wants to make money. They'll pay attention if they can make money. That's the bottom line, right?
Well, I think, when was this made?
This year.
This year, right? I think it's, the interesting thing is the landscape's changing already, right?
Yeah.
Like, with the movement in the States going on, so I think there will be a lot of very interesting things going on in this particular genre, in this particular,
Of course, yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, definitely a timely film. The filmmaker is in attendance in the front row, Michael. So if you want to stand up and say the wave to the crowd. It's good to see a nice Toronto film about a film like this. Fund your project.
I also didn't have a reputation in film like they did. This is my first film, and so I felt like for my first film you have to sort of show that you can make a film, and then you can use that for your next one, and then crowdfund from there, I feel.
So yeah, you can't ask people for money if you don't have a body of work already attached, right? You need to do something first.
Did you come with the idea for creating a documentary after hearing about the making of Kiss Me, Kill Me? Was that sort of the inspiration? Or?
Well, I had been thinking about this topic for a while. I didn't really see a way into it because you need a story when you're making a documentary. You can't just talk about the subject. And I was friends with Casper on Facebook, and I saw that he was crowdfunding for this film, and I was like, this is a perfect window into this topic. So it could make it relatable. People watching the film could feel like they were on the journey with him, and then it puts more of like a realistic perspective on a topic that might be a little too general or too big for some people.
I think someone had already asked, but do you plan on like following up? Like the landscape is changing quickly. Do you plan on following up with this? I know that there was the stats from GLAAD where they were showing how gays used to be represented. Do you plan on following up? Like I'd be interested to see moving forward how those stats evolve over time. Sort of like an open-ended question, but.
Yeah, like it's definitely a topic that's of interest to me personally, and I care about how it affects the community around the world, so it's something that I'm interested in. I just, there'd have to be some way in, a story.